Aloha and welcome to Spirit Chat Radio. So, I apparently come out of podcast hibernation because there's some stuff I want to talk to you guys about. I have a really good story for you. You'll have to stay tuned to the end of the podcast for that story. It's something I don't think you're going to want to miss for sure. That being said, I've been having a lot of people ask about energy reports and kind of, how to deal with it, what's happening, all that good stuff. And so that's something that I wanted to kind of discuss now. I'm going to talk a lot about September energy today, but some of the stuff I'm going to start off with is going to be consistently happening through the end of the year. And so we'll talk about that first. This year is what's called a rebirth year. And energetically, that's what's happening. It's a rebirth year for you, for your business, for your relationships, for all aspects of your life. And what I mean by that is you probably have noticed throughout 2021 that there have been a lot of potential shifts happening, or you're feeling unsatisfied in the direction that you're going in some aspect of your life. This is the time for everybody to reset. So I look at this as a really fantastic opportunity to do anything over. Like reset, do over, like whatever it is that you want to redo. Now's the time to do it, whether it be a change in career or imagine it like this. This is why I've been telling people. Imagine it as if you are 20 again, unless you're 26 or something. But imagine back to when you were younger than you are now. But for us who are older, you imagine it like you're 20 again. What shifts and changes do you feel like that you wished you would have made, that you're more aware of, that you would like to do now? What draws your attention, what type of passions and desires? But a lot of times I notice that people, I wished I would have done this or that or whatever it is. And there's still plenty of time, no matter how old you are in life, to switch directions. And usually when you start having that feeling, that intuitive, that hit in the chest center, in the heart, in the soul area, this is your intuitive senses. This is your spiritual self prompting you to then make a shift or a change. And then your mind comes in and goes, yeah, but, and gives you 118 different excuses of why that's not plausible. And or it says, okay, you're going to have these many hurdles to go over. And then you just start getting tired thinking about that and all the things that you'd have to do along with your regular day-to-day stuff. And then you're just like, just forget about it. That just sounds overwhelming. What your brain doesn't take into account is when you start to feel to the very core of your being, when your soul starts talking to you, which is what happens when you get that. Isn't it interesting how much we listen to our internal dialogue in our brain, the conversation that we're having, but when our soul starts talking to us, somehow we discredit that really quickly? Think about it. When your soul's talking to you, you're receiving the information the same way. It's just coming from a different area that you can feel. You can feel it in the body. You still hear and can translate the information very easy, especially if you are intuitive. You absolutely can translate what your soul is saying to you. You then interpret that as internal desire versus logical aspects of your life, brain, right? And it's really interesting how we put more weight into the logical aspects that the brain is bringing to the surface than we do into our soul speaking to us. And that really can mess people up. And so now is the time to really pay attention to what your soul is telling you. There's going to be a lot of soul conversations going on this year. There's going to be a lot of soul chatter happening. So any of that stuff where you can feel and hear your soul talking to you and you have these internal desires, That's really, this year is going to be very, very important to listen, observe and listen, and really weigh that, there should be weight to that of importance, instead of going, oh no, you just pipe down because we have to do what brain says over here. That's not logical for the energy of this year. And if you do that, if you try to put a cork on what your soul is trying to tell you, that's going to cause a lot of stress and internal just struggle, a lot of frustration that is going to just be bottled up inside, and you're going to think your frustration is coming from here and there and everywhere, because of course it's pretty easy to pinpoint frustration on pretty much everywhere and everything, but it's really going to be an internal frustration of you just trying to pipe down what your soul is saying, what the conversation it's trying to have with you. So this year, you really want to pay more attention and develop a relationship with that soul conversation. At least entertain and listen and observe to what the soul is trying to tell you. It's going to be hugely important for this year. Hugely important. The problem with that is we're going up against this influx of energy that also has a lot of chatter in it. So when we're so intuitive, we tend to listen to a lot of different things in our life. We listen or feel and hear your internal dialogue, your intuitive senses, that you're reading the environmental energy that's going on around you. And there's a lot of disruptive energy in the environmental energy that's kind of happening right now. And that's going to be continuing on through the rest of the year. So you're kind of having an internal battle and struggle. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about with the internal energy and the different aspects of energy that you're consistently reading on a day-to-day basis, you'll definitely want to check out my Empath University, because I go over all of how to read through these different energies and how to pay more attention to that. But anyways, that being said, you might find that recently, especially, that you're feeling like you're in a tug of war with your emotions or with the energy, which is causing three major issues. One is it's causing high anxiety. We'll just call this a high anxiety year. Is that a big surprise? Not really, but for those of us who are really in tune to environmental energy and reading energy in general, high anxiety just comes along with that. High anxiety, stress, and fear, that sort of thing. Then you have confusion. Confusion because the outside energy, the environmental energy is really strong, and the way that these energetic influences are working right now, people are not on purpose, but they're really, like I said, you're really putting a cork on what your soul is telling you. And when that happens, you're shutting down your intuition somewhat. And so it's causing you to have this tug of war with which part of your intuitive senses you're listening to. Because the outside noise, the environmental energy, is so loud that it causes you to hear that more. So you have to come to a quiet place in order to hear your soul talking to you, your internal intuition that really relates to you, your life, and what's happening in regards to your personal self and your personal being. And that becomes really hard to do if you are around a lot of people that are chattering a lot about what's happening environmentally, or you're watching the news or doing any of those things. But I don't even watch the news. I can't tell you how many people in my life is just like getting all crazy. Like, people are crazy this year. This ought to be the year, just the year of crazy is what it ought to be. Not the year of rebirth, just the year of people being nuts. But whatever. That being said, it's just something that you're going to want to be aware of, because the confusion is going to be there. And that's what happens when you are struggling between the two, when you're struggling between the environmental energy and how loud that is right now, and then you are kind of trying to put a cork on your spiritual internal energy, your intuition. And so it's causing you to have this tug of war, which then leads to feeling off balance. The feeling of being off balance and kind of being in between the physical and the spiritual world, and just not feeling like they're cohesive, but feeling like you're on a teeter-totter. You're on one side and then the other side, and then you're on one side and the other side. And that's been happening with people a lot who are really highly intuitive. And you're good for a minute on the spiritual side, then you're in the physical side, and then you're like, oh no, I need to, and you can't seem to find that balance between the teeter-totter. So in order to handle that and a lot of aspects that I'm going to be talking about that's also coming up this month, there's really one main thing to do, and I'll get to that after we talk about sort of what's going to be happening with the September energy. So it's been happening a little bit already, but you're going to notice probably through the middle of September, you're going to be experiencing delays, unexpected happenings, different shifts and changes, or different things that you didn't expect. Like, I didn't think that would happen, or that was kind of weird, or, just things that you didn't really anticipate happening. You're going to notice things kind of just feeling stuck, and then shift. Like, how would I say that? Just delays, unexpected things that come up that you have to deal with and handle, or rescheduling, that would be a good thing. So the other thing that's kind of, you'll want to know, kind of piggybacking off of that, I don't view this as a bad thing, but you yourself will probably know how you'd handle things during this time, is we do have Mercury retrograde starting at the end of this month into like October 17th, I believe. And that that's always lovely for communication issues, and also for electronic issues. I have major electronic issues during Mercury retrograde. It's horrible, but I'm used to it. Now, some people don't like to do anything during Mercury retrograde, they don't like to enter into contracts or things like that. The weird thing for me is during Mercury retrograde, actually, that's when I tend to start all new projects. I don't know why. That is a very, manifesting type energy, a very powerful energy. And it literally seems to be the times that I ever do classes or do anything like that. It just happens to just hit right during Mercury retrograde. And so that is not something that makes me nervous by any means, but it definitely does not like my electronics. My electronics and Mercury retrograde, not friends. So that is something that we're going to kind of be seeing, we will be seeing at the end of September. The good thing about this month is there will be more of a calm, relaxed energy. The influxes of energy are going to be happening through all of this month, but there's going to be about a week or two, about the middle of this month, probably to the third week, somewhere around that, where you're actually going to feel calm energy. You're going to want to feel relaxed. That's a good time to take some R&R. And on the flip side of that, don't get frustrated because you might be feeling unmotivated. So that's going to be where everything's going to feel like it's moving slower, that it's harder to get things done. And, it's just feels like you might be feeling like you're stuck in the mud, but that's also a really fantastic time to chill, relax, take some time for yourself. It's going to be around the second to the middle to the third week of September. Now, what this month is going to be really fantastic for is preparing any goals or manifestations that you're wanting to put into place. October, November is going to be when we're going to be kind of feeling some manifestations, some things happening. So putting some systems into place, preparing for something. So if you are working on some goals and you're like, nothing's happening and I feel like there's delays and then there's these shifts and now I have to change this, that's the energy right now. We're having those delays, and we're kind of in work mode. That would be a good way. Spiritually, we're in work mode right now. We are having to work through to, put systems in place, do things, which actually comes to my huge suggestion for this month is, but you're in work mode energetically and spiritually to put in any type of work, whether it be actual physical work or just sitting down and doing meditative work or doing manifestation work. That's work mode this month, and to how would you say, to manifest, to have your goals come to fruition. This is our working time. This is our working energy month, where we're going to be, just putting all the puzzle pieces together. We're going to be lining things out. We're going to be making lists. We're going to be crossing things off of list. We're preparing for what we want to happen. We're preparing for our goal. That's going to be, we're a work in progress this month. For sure, a lot of the beginning of this month. And like I said, you may be a little bit of frustration because you're having some delays and that sort of thing. The other thing, just relationship-wise, this month, as it has been, you might be feeling influxes of energy where you're getting along great, and then you're irritated, and then you're getting along great, and then you're frustrated with it, and then you're annoyed, and then you're getting along great, like a lot of friction energy. So when it comes to relationships, and it's going to come and go, it's going to ebb and flow. So don't hang out in the ebb or the flow, just move with it. And as now you have no excuse, since I've told you this, not to do what I'm going to say, which is, if you're finding yourself in the annoying end or the friction end of the ebb and flow, take a minute, move away from it. Don't have deep conversations about it. Understand that a lot of that, although it may be looking like it's your relationship, is probably having to do with the energy outside of the relationship. So let's not punish the other person at that moment in time. Let's be aware that you are picking up, and it tends to focus the energy into the relationship energetic for whatever reason, which is always awesome. So here's what you need to do with this energy. You need to really work with the ebb and flow this month. And like I said, there's going to be some friction, annoying energy through this ebb and flow with relationships. So you want to ebb and flow. You do not want to be stuck in one or the other. Don't want to get into arguments for no reason, because a lot of this energy is going to be sparky energy. And what it means is, it's not life changing necessarily or this or that. It's like, pick your battles. Seriously pick your battles, because there's going to be a lot of little battles that really are not worth being picked at. And you're going to feel a lot better if you just let it go and just move away and just shift your mindset. Shifting your mindset is going to be huge. That's going to be really important. Understand that we're preparing. Now's a preparing energetic cycle, and we are preparing for any manifestations and things moving forward, goals that you want to have. And do understand that this, again, I know this is a year thing, but this is your rebirth year. What is it that you would change in your life? What is it? What would you do differently? If you got to do over, and you were in a movie and you drank the magic well water, and now you're back in your 20s and you get to do whatever you want to do over again, what would you do? Because the universe is supporting that. And it's not a do-over, it's a reset. You get to think of it as the next phase of your life. You get to reset and do some really cool things. But the coolest things is you're aware of it and you're smarter now. Smarter, you have all this information, and you probably have more money and friends and stuff. So you're good to go. You have a lot that you could do differently at this point in time. And so that's going to be coming up for you. So because of this influx of energy, here's the things that you're going to have to work on, because people are having a hard time. Anybody who is intuitive is going to be having a hard time with the balance of energy and really getting the balance. Like I said, you're going to be like on that teeter-totter, going physical, spiritual, ebb and flow. Everything's going to feel back and forth. And that's going to cause that imbalanced feeling. So it's going to be very, very important for you to figure out what systems that work for you, that keep you in good mental, physical, spiritual shape. And what I mean by that is exercises, like if you have an exercise routine, if you have a vitamin routine, if you have a morning routine where you get up and do morning coffee, and then you do this and then you do that, if you have a yoga routine, or if you don't have a routine, because that's the problem with this month, is any routines that you normally have, for some reason you might have and probably have stopped doing them, because this influx of energy is causing so many shifts and so much spiritual ADHD that you're going to be like moving from one thing to another, and you're going to be like, oh no, I forgot I normally do this. You have to be super conscientious this month of your systems and routines, because those will keep your spiritual, mental, physical bodies balanced. That even threw me off and to where I was like, wow, like, okay, I need to get back to this system, and I need to commit to this system. And I'm not going to lie, it took me a week. It took me easily a week to be like, because then you get sidetracked and then something happens and then you go, it's just, So it took me a week of being very conscientiously committed to, for me, it was a routine of making sure I had certain things in my diet, yoga, stretching, which haven't consistently done at the beginning of the year, but I can tell during this weird wonky energy, even me just stretching and doing the yoga stuff in front of the TV definitely balanced the spiritual and the physical body. And then for me, one of the things I'm also doing is getting back into doing the podcasting again, because that is a very important part of my balance. So that is a work balance thing for me. I have been heavily balanced in another area, and I need to get back into my spiritual work balance. So that is something that I was conscientious of, made a conscious effort to do so. Then the universe told me a bunch of things that made me come out of podcast hibernation anyways. So, and consistency with your system. So for instance, I have a plan of how I do my exercise in the morning, I do my yoga at night. I have an idea in my brain of how often I should be doing these, but how I broke it down for myself is just making sure I'm doing each one so many times a week. So if I skip one day, I'm not off my schedule or my consistency or whatever. Same with my certain things that I need in my diet. Certain things I need in my diet, I need to make sure I'm eating those things so many times a week. So that's what you're going to want to be really focusing on. Besides the preparing, you want to be focusing on balance, systems, and consistency. Your balance, your systems, and consistency. That's going to be very important to pull the mind, body, spirit together and keep you feeling like you're not on a teeter-totter. Okay, so now to my story. I'm not telling anybody this story to convince anybody of anything. I'm literally just giving you my experience because I find it a little bit fascinating, but very irritating at the same time. And it's not something I normally talk about, but I'm going to be talking about it on this. So there's a lot of stress going on with the situation with COVID and people yelling at each other, whether they're vaccinated or not vaccinated, and getting sick or not getting. This is not a debate. I'm just simply stating what you know is the obvious. It's very irritating to the spiritual senses as you're feeling all the stress, the debating energy, the worry, the fear. It's a lot, and it's super overwhelming to those of us who are empaths. So I am sort of steering clear of most people, most stuff, just because the energy of everybody, it's too much for me. That being said, my husband had gotten COVID a couple weeks ago, and when he got it, my daughter, now mind you, myself and my kids always take CBD to sleep. Always do. We've done it for over a year. My son way longer. He takes it for working out and different stuff too. But we all take it for sleep. It's something we've done consistently. It's not something we even think about. Actually, I think of my CBD before going to bed because I need to sleep more than I even think about my vitamins getting up, because it is that important for my life. That being said, my husband does not. And he is also not vaccinated. Well, that happened to be a time where my daughter had sent me a article, which I will post below. Well, it'll be that one, or it'll be a different one, I think, on the CBD and how the effects of the CBD have been researched on COVID, and how people were not. I'm just going to let you read the article, but the positive benefits of the research they've done, we were reading about, and the benefits were amazing from what we were reading. The research was quite astounding, where it was talking about people who had it in their system had like a 1% positivity rate versus people who didn't, etc. And so we had been trying to get him to take CBD for a long time. And he's like, I don't need it. I sleep fine. But when this happened, he actually, on day 6 of his symptoms, went in because he was sick and tired of having COVID, or had got some CBD. Somebody had got him some CBD. So he got CBD. He wasn't here. He's actually on the mainland, which is probably why you're wondering, why are you not giving him CBD? But he was vacationing. He was with family. And so anyways, he got the CBD, and I kid you not, the first thing that happened that was bizarre was within 24 hours, he started feeling incredibly better. He's like, yeah, okay, this is weird. Now, if you knew my husband, you would know that's not something he would normally say, because he's skeptical about everything anyways. Then I'm like, and he had just taken a nasal test on that 6th day, because he had actually tested positive before the symptoms. He had taken a nasal test. It was straight up positive immediately. Again, his second positive test. And so he started taking the CBD. And then we're like, okay, well, if you're feeling better, let's wait another, 24 hours and then see if you can take the test again. So 48 hours later, after taking the CBD, he took the test, negative. And we were like, okay, that's really crazy, but good to know, because it obviously helped him feel better and get a negative test. So we were like, all right, well, that's, again, good to know, because that was what research was showing, and it seemed to be working for us. So I told a lot of my family. I sent out a text to everybody because we just found it very interesting that tend to be our experience. And again, I said the same thing to them. I said, I'm not trying to convince you one way or the other. I just wanted to let you know our experience with this, and it was quite shocking. We really were shocked. We really, really did not think that he would test negative, truthfully. What we thought would happen was that maybe his viral load would go down a little bit, but not that it would test negative. So we were kind of like, that's, wow, okay, well, that works. So I was telling somebody about it, a friend of mine, and this friend went to a very popular store here. And when they went to the store, they tried to buy some CBD gummies because that's what my husband was taking. And the person at the store said, sorry, we don't have CBD gummies. They got into a conversation because that's where they were actually selling them. They got into a conversation. She said the FDA made him pull them last week. And as they were talking, she said somebody from the FDA was in there, told them that people were taking CBD gummies and zinc and passing COVID tests or something of that nature. And so the FDA now has pulled them from the shelves. I was like, what? Okay, well, this is weird. So I called down there and talked to this same person. And I asked, because this was a store that we bought some of our CBD gummies at. So I had actually been watching for them to come back in because they were out. And so they hadn't come back in. And then I started thinking, well, obviously that must be why. So I called down there and asked, are you getting any CBD gummies in? And she said, no, sorry, the FDA made us pull all the CBD gummies from the shelves last week. And I said, what do you mean they pulled the gummies? Like, why? And she says, we have no idea. And I said, so they didn't have you pull anything else, just the gummies? And she's like, yeah. And I said, but that doesn't make any sense. And she goes, well, and then she stopped because it was like she wanted to say something, but she didn't. And then she's like, well, we were just given this thing that said that we had to pull them. And so I was like, And I said, well, here's why I am asking you this question. Because we come down there and buy CBD gummies. I've been watching for them. They haven't come in. My husband's on the mainland. He actually contracted COVID. He started taking the CBD gummies, and within 48 hours, he tested negative. Now, mind you, this was very early on in the COVID stage. Again, still doesn't make sense. Don't know if it happened to other people. This is just our experience. That being said, we obviously, I like to keep them on hand and have them. And she said, okay, here's the thing. I'll tell you the story since you told me that. She said, a woman came in here the other day, and she was from the FDA. She heard me talking to a customer, and we were talking about the CBD and the gummies and whatnot and COVID. She said she was very kind. She wasn't being rude or anything. And when she came up to the counter, she says, you are correct. The CBD gummies, and people are taking CBD gummies, and they are taking zinc or CBD and zinc, and they are not contracting COVID. She said, you're right. And she bought her own CBD products, and then she left after they had a little bit more conversation about it. She bought the products and she left. And she said, and the very next day, we got a letter from the FDA, corporate-wide, that told us that we had to pull all the CBD gummies from the shelves effective immediately or face heavy fines. She said, and that was very weird. I said, how did you know she was from the FDA? She said, because she told me. And she tells her that, then buys her own gum or, CBD products. I don't know what she bought, but bought her own products. And the next day they were pulled from the shelves, and they were told to pull them from the shelves. Take what you want to from this conversation. It was very bizarre to me. Seemed that she obviously knew the paper was coming, used them herself. And I know there's a million conspiracy theories out there. Again, I'm not trying to be one of the conspiracy theory things. I just am telling you my experience because I thought it was extremely odd. And also, I did forget to mention a part where they, when they told her or the company to pull them, she also told me now CBD products are technically illegal in Hawaii, which it doesn't, from the research I've done, it doesn't really seem like that's exactly it. It seems like only FDA approved CBD can be here. So whatever they don't want to be there, I don't know. That's a whole nother thing that I don't really want to get into because, I don't want to think about it, whatever. I just thought it would be a very good thing for those of you who are interested in alternative stuff. That was our experience. The one when I talked to heard it from somebody from the FDA. Now they seem to be pulling it, which I don't know what they're doing in wherever you live, but it's something to it's just mind-boggling to me. It truthfully is mind-boggling. You hear these stories, you read them, people tell you about them. Oh, so-and-so, this is why they're doing this. This is why they're doing this. And there's a lot of information to sort through, not to mention there's a lot of articles or research out there on CBD and COVID or other things. We weren't even taking it for that. We were taking it for sleep. And now just the fact that they've now pulled them makes me realize, there's definitely something to this. That's how I perceive it. But you perceive it however you want to. It's just out there. The other interesting thing is I have known 10 people recently who have tested positive for COVID in the last couple weeks. 60% of them were vaccinated. 6 of them were fully 100% vaccinated. They didn't just have regular minors. I mean, they were sick, just like the people who I knew that weren't vaccinated. They were the same, had the same. In fact, one of the people who were vaccinated, one who weren't, exact same symptoms, exact same severity. It was very strange. So out of the 10 people, two people had their first shot, and then the other 2 were unvaccinated. So that was another thing I looked up, because I was like, why am I hearing about so many people unvaccinated, or not that are vaccinated, that are having this issue, and yet you don't hear about it anywhere? Well, then I learned from the research I've done, do your own research. Don't just take my word for it, do your own. That it has to be voluntarily reported. So your doctor's just not going to report it that you had the vaccine and you had it if you tested positive. They have to be in a voluntary program. They have to submit it differently, and or you have to voluntarily submit it yourself. So those are just going in as regular cases, and they're not going in as breakthrough. So I was just like, okay, then it just starts getting so overwhelming. I just don't want nothing to do with it. I don't want to read it. I want nothing. My main point of telling you this is, I just want you to stay as healthy as you can. I want my family to. I've told them. We were, like I said, taking it for other reasons. The other interesting thing, though, is my son has taken COVID tests 7 times, I believe, 7 or 8, due to travel, being exposed, and or having some symptoms for a day or 2. And every time it's tested negative. But he takes CBD religiously. So, yeah. Oh, and we all already take zinc. I've already taken zinc forever, because I don't even remember why I started taking it. It's part of my routine. It's part of my consistency. It's part of my balance. It's my magnesium, zinc, and my CBD patches. I don't miss those. So that being said, again, I would share that with, or you could share this podcast or this whatever you're listening to it on with whoever you want to. But I talked to her the other day, and I'm still just dumbfounded that happened. Like, I'm just shocked. And I'm still truthfully a little bit surprised how well that worked for my husband, who now takes CBD, by the way. Now he does. I don't have to convince him. I don't have to try to tell him to. Now it's a thing in his life. So that being said, I know people are going to ask me what CBD that we use, because they always do, or they'll email or DM. And so I will post a link to the patches below, which, do know I am an affiliate with them. I just love the patches. They're more expensive than some of the other stuff. What my husband was taking was called FX CBD, and we also take like the Charlotte's Web. We really like the Charlotte's Web gummies. And actually they had some really cool little pills that are like the oil is in them now. But the other thing that you want to know about the CBD, just FYI, in order from the stuff that we've seen, which I'll post the research below, but it needs to be a broader full spectrum CBD. It can't just be hemp infused whatever. It has to actually be CBD, and it has to be like a broad or a full spectrum CBD. So that's really important if you don't know anything about CBD products. Oh, and this month is the month of Virgo, but that being said, I have a lot of new products coming into the metaphysical store, and I know people are going to ask me about this. One of my favorite things this month is the Larimar bracelets, the Larimar cuffs, which I'll post a link to that below as well, because energetically it just is very balancing to this energy, and so that one is pretty amazing. So I will post that below as well, because people have been asking me about that. Anyways, I hope that you found this informative and helpful, and I will be back with another energy report hopefully soon, and have the most amazing day. Oh yeah, if you want to get more in tune with how to read energy, I also have a couple of classes up on my website on Keys to the Spirit World that are like, one is getting in touch with your spirit guide, and one is like a health and wellness course, an energetic course. They're like $37 one time. Or you can stop over at Empath University, and I will post both of those links below. I'd love to see you in class. Anyways, have the most amazing day. Aloha.